What's good, guys? Welcome back to the first take. I'm Eddie Reese, and yes, GTA Game of Thrones shirt back on. So you know what that is? Game of Thrones history and lore. Ooh, what part is this? 7? I'm losing track of these, man. But I'm loving it. Last one was good because it gave us a better idea of the history of Dawn, something that the show didn't really do at all. Hardly at all. So let's see what else we get to be revealed. Ooh, let's do it.
Fire made flesh. Such is the nature of dragons, claim the Eastern mystics. For once they may have a point, though not the one they think. Fire consumes, leaving at its end naught but ash. Thus the fate of the Targaryens and their dragons. Thousands of years ago, Valyrian stumbled on the first dragon eggs in the mountains of the 14 Fires. I cannot imagine shepherds could hatch dragon eggs and bind such creatures to their will, but whatever aid they must have had is lost to history. Every educated person knows how the Dragon Lords then conquered most of the known world, breaking the ancient Giscari Empire, enslaving a continent, building roads and bridges that still stand today, though the art that made them is lost.
Need to learn more about
An
those
empire
guys.
of marvels and misery. And now what is left of Valyria? A smoking wasteland. Ash. In time, Aegon Targaryen and his sisters brought their 3 dragons who had escaped the doom to Westeros, perhaps thinking to regain his people's lost glory. And so he did. On the field of fire, he proved that armies were no match for dragons. At Harrenhal, he proved that mighty castles weren't either. Aegon Targaryen became Aegon the Conqueror, first of his name, founder of a dynasty. His first act, to order his dragon Valyrian, the Black Dread, to melt the swords of his beaten foes into his new Iron Throne. For over 100 years, the Targaryen dragons cemented their breeders' hold on the 7 kingdoms, if not each other. When Targaryen fought Targaryen in the civil war called the Dance of the Dragons, an angry mob stormed the Dragon Pit, that huge, now ruined vault where the Targaryens stabled their beasts. Thousands died, but through sheer numbers and madness, 5 of the Targaryen dragons lay dead by the morning.
Fuck.
Which was perhaps too many. Thereafter, each generation of dragons grew smaller than its parents. Their skulls used to line the throne room of the Red Keep in order of birth. The oldest, Valyrian, could swallow an ox whole.
Look at Danny.
The last skull was barely the size of a dog's.
Shit.
Yet the Targaryens never stopped trying to revive their dragons. Aerion Brightflame drank a draught of wildfire and burned to death. Aegon V tried to hatch stone dragon eggs with sorcery and burned to death. Against these, Aerys II looks almost sensible. He only burned other men to death. Now we hear rumors that the young Daenerys Targaryen has hatched 3 dragons far to the east. If she were to be so foolish as to march on Westeros, she will not find, as her ancestor Aegon did, 7 disparate kingdoms frightened by her strange beasts. She will find a continent united behind Lord Tywin Lannister, who extinguished her own father's flame.
Thomas.
And we have known dragons now. We have seen them die.
Not for hundreds or so years. But Lyra should be the new show. That should be the
Justice is a
prequel.
funny thing.
Forget
For the
Westeros.
poor, it's what keeps them alive. And starving, depending on how the local lord feels about his woods, his streams, his crops. For the rich, justice is what you get if you're not careful enough, or rich enough. Usually how it works is, you commit a crime and the local lord sends his guards after you. Or your victim's family kills you and the guards go after them instead. Or you do nothing and the guards come after you anyway. Either way, someone is brought before the lord and he decides what's to be done. Could be a fine if you're rich enough to pay it. Otherwise it's the dungeons, the chopping block, or the wall. You'd think most folks would choose the wall. The north is nasty, dark and cold, but so are most dungeons, and every man knows how the Night's Watch earned their name. all they can do is watch. I don't blame the men who choose a quick chop rather than life without one of its few joys. If you're in the capital, it's the King's Justice who takes your head. Elsewhere in the south, the headsman of the local lord. But in the north, it's the lord himself.
Just get sent to the
The
wall.
man who passes the
and
sentence
run.
should swing the sword, they say up there. Sounds noble, but given some of the northern lords I've met, they just don't want anyone else spoiling their fun. If you're so unlucky to be in the Vale when you're caught, you might never make it to sentencing thanks to their sky cells. Open on one side to a long fall, with the floor sloping down towards it like a woman's thighs.
Remember that
After a
shit.
few days, they say the sky starts calling to you. Men jump with smiles on their faces, expecting the wind to lift them into the sky.
Yeah.
It doesn't. To think Lord Tyrion was one tit-shaped cloud away from death. Lucky for him, he was highborn. If your family honour goes back hundreds of years to a time when your ancestors hit other men harder than they were hit, you have another option. Trial by combat. You either fight your accuser, or you both pick champions to fight on your behalf, and the gods will favour the righteous man. As long as he's also the strongest, the quickest, or the luckiest. Once in a long while, you may get two real high-born shits having a go at each other, and one of them might be fool enough to demand a trial by 7. Exactly how it sounds. 7 men against 7 men.
Ooh.
Makes for a good show, I guess. But any man who's been in battle knows that the more men involved, the less skill needed, the more chance of accidents. Just ask that Targaryen prince who got his head staved in by his brother all those years ago. And all for some hedge knight. If you ever find yourself arrested in the 7 Kingdoms, just remember that justice is up to the judge. Beg him for forgiveness, or pay him for it, or ask to be allowed to take the black. But remember that he doesn't have to let you. There are plenty of lords out there who think hands and heads are great decorations for their spikes. The Septons claim that justice is of the gods. Nice of them to keep it up there to themselves.
Damn.
Iron chainmail and steel plate over the chest. Metal gauntlets over the hands and greaves over the legs. A visored helm over the skull. A knight in full armor can shrug off swords, spears, and axes, but Valyrian steel slices through his protections like so much cloth. As advanced as iron is from bronze, so is Valyrian steel from ordinary steel.
We haven't really seen
Lighter
that.
yet stronger, and nothing holds an edge like it. If you take a whetstone to a Valyrian blade, you'll need another whetstone, and maybe another hand to hold it. Nobody knows how the Valyrians forge their steel. Less than a handful of smiths can now even reshape it. The process, like so much of their civilization, was lost in the Doom. Many claim they wove magic spells into the molten metal and blasted it with dragonfire. When you see a Valyrian blade, smoky and dark as if drinking in the sun and rippling with 1,000 folds, you may not scoff so loudly. The Valyrian steel that exists now is all there will ever be. Some survives in the citadel with the maester's chains, where a link of Valyrian steel signifies study of the higher mysteries, whatever those are. Some drifts through the world as prize daggers and jewelry for rich merchants. I've even seen a Dothraki auric. But much more of Valyrian steel lives on in the great houses of Westeros as their most treasured possession. A sword passed down from father to son for generations. Ice of House Stark. Heartsbane of House Tarly. Lady Forlorn of House Corbray. But even precious treasures can be lost. Aegon Targaryen's Blackfyre and Visenya's dark sister disappeared in Daemon Blackfyre's rebellion. A foolish king of the
they're gonna
Rock
turn
took
up.
House Lannister's Brightroar to Valyria, and neither blade nor man was seen again.
Right, raw.
And then there are the swords that are not lost, but lose their owners. For 5 centuries, Longclaw was the pride of House Mormont, my house. Even penniless and in great debt, I chose to sell men rather than the sword. And when my shame became known and I fled Bear Island for the east, I left it behind for my father, to hold it for a worthier heir. Valyrian steel is a wonder of the world, sharper than wits, truer than men, rarer than virtue, but even its edge cannot cut so deeply as a son's failure, nor its value match that of redemption.
I'd go back to the ruins of Valyrian, just dig, try to find a stash of it or some shit. It has to be.
A simple word for a simple act. And so, of course, men complicate it. A child born to a wife is a gift from the gods. A child born to a mistress or an obedient serving girl is a bastard, unworthy of its father's name. So instead, we call the children after the land where they were born. Flowers in the Reach and Hill in the Westerlands, Stone in the Vale and Storm in the Stormlands, Rivers in the Riverlands and Waters in the Crownlands, Pike in the Iron Islands, Snow in the North and in Dorne, Sand. By these names, everyone can recognize a bastard.
That's what they...
Even if his own father won't. Though sometimes a father with too much gold and daughters will ask the king to legitimize a bastard son and give him his family name. If his wife objects, the next one does not. But sometimes the gods play their jokes, and later his wife will give him a true-born son of their own. When this happens, well,
ugly.
Children die all the time. So do fathers. Even the beautiful Targaryens had bastards when brothers tired of their sisters. Many took the name Blackfire after the conqueror's own sword. When Aegon the Unworthy legitimized all his bastards on his deathbed, they rose up against his true-born heir. Westeros bled. Dorne yawned. For most of Westeros, the Blackfire Rebellion only proved what they already knew. Bastards are treacherous, born of lust and shame. But here in Dorne, lust is not shameful. We know that bastardy does not make a man more treacherous than another. Man does not need the help.
Lot you say that's why Caitlyn didn't like Jon Snow.
Most boys dream of becoming a Kingsguard. Rich boys from good families get a chance. Smart boys stay at home and sing songs about them instead, opening purses and thighs, because the Kingsguard isn't really good for much else. There was one Kingsguard, I forgot the bastard's name, who swore an oath to his dying Targaryen king to crown his daughter after him. The very night that king died, this Kingsguard crowned the king's son instead. When an old man on the small council dared to protest, this honourable knight opened his throat. Bastard died in the very civil war he started, along with the old king's son, daughter, and most of their dragons. And the Kingsguard? All that duty and honour, and not enough brains to figure out which Targaryen to give it to. Twin brothers even ended up on opposite sides, died with tears on their cheeks as they cut each other down. I suppose I should think that's tragic, but stupid men do stupid things every day, and nobody cries over them.
Damn.
Prince Aemon, the Dragon Knight, may be the most famous Kingsguard who ever lived. How did he die? Defending Aegon the Unworthy from the brothers of a man whom Aegon fed to his dogs. The man's crime? Sleeping with one of the many mistresses Aegon wasn't using. And the man was one of Aegon's own Kingsguard. Arthur Dane, Gerald Hightower. Sure, if half the stories about them are true, they could swing a sword better than most. Makes their lives even more of a waste.
That was a flashback there.
Bodyguards to the maddest king the Seven Kingdoms ever saw. Watching their king burn men alive. Standing guard as their king raped his queen. Hiding the Stark girl that Prince Rhaegar stole away. Causing a war that toppled their king.
Those guys were badass.
And all this without any gold or women to show for it. Stupid buggers. The only one with any sense was Jaime Lannister. When his father stormed the city, he put a sword through the Mad King's back rather than die gloriously at his post. He's still here. They're not. Even if the Kingsguard are the greatest knights in the realm, knights are just arses in armour, riding whatever horse their daddies gave them. Putting on a white cloak doesn't make a man smarter or bolder. It's just a pretty little curtain. Behind it is the same pile of shit.
I love Bronn, man.
All boys dream of becoming knights. The boys with talent dream of becoming Kingsguard. The boys without talent, well, I wouldn't know. I remember the day the Lord Commander wrote my name down in the White Book, the official record of the Kingsguard. At 16, the youngest member ever to join. Knighted by Sir Arthur and Sir Barristan for valor against the Kingswood Brotherhood. An outlaw had decided to try his luck against a lowly squire. He wasn't using his head, so I took it off him. Shortly afterwards, King Aerys II, who hadn't yet earned the title of the Mad King, took me into his service. If I have ever been happy, it was that day. For centuries, the Kingsguard had been the glory of the realm. Aegon the Conqueror had established the Order as his personal guardians after uniting Westeros with fire and blood. He knew that some of his subjects wouldn't take to conquest, and his dragons were no use against knives in the dark. No doubt surrounding himself with the greatest knights in Westeros made his rule more palatable and less foreign as well. Everyone in his kingdom soon knew the names and sung the songs of the Kingsguard. I certainly did from my earliest days. Lord Commander Gerald Hightower, the White Bull. Arthur Dane, the Sword of the Morning. Barristan Selmy, the Bold. Prince Lewin Martell. Oswald Went, Jonathan Derry, and, soon enough, the boy prodigy, me. We protected the king and his family. We killed his enemies and led his armies. We gave him counsel when asked and kept his secrets when not. We swore to hold no lands, take no wives, and father no children, like the Night's Watch, except with a real job to do. Was I awed to see my name inscribed in the same book as my heroes? Of course not. I was 16 and brilliant. I knew it belonged there. Beside the name of Prince Aemon the Dragon Knight, who wielded the Valyrian sword Dark Sister, he died defending King Aegon the Unworthy from assassins, though the king had insulted Aemon throughout his reign and had well earned his fate, because Prince Aemon had sworn our oath. Beside the name of Sir Gawain Corbry, who duelled the Targaryen bastard Daemon Blackfyre for an hour during the Battle of the Red Grass Field, though outmatched and grievously wounded, because Sir Gawain had sworn our oath. Beside the name of Sir Duncan the Tall, who as a hedge knight broke several of Prince Aerion Targaryen's teeth while defending a Dornish woman. He later rose to Lord Commander and burned beside his king at Summerhall, because Sir Duncan had sworn our oath. And now, below the name of Jaime Lannister, you know how it reads. What I did, even though I had sworn our oath. That was years and a hand ago. When I joined the Kingsguard, I fought beside legends in the flesh. Their kind is dust now, and the men who have taken their place? Mud. Sir Boris Blunt, the fat. Sir Marin Trant, the forgettable. Sandor Clegane, the dog who tucked tail and ran. Like mud, their names soiled the White Book, almost as much as mine.
Love the fact he hasn't forgotten what he did. He's trying to make
Twice
good on
the
it. Man.
Targaryens tried to conquer Dorne with soldiers. Twice they failed. Only when the Dragon Kings came bearing husbands and wives did my ancestors relent and agree to join their 7 kingdoms. House Martell could have waged war until the end of days. But how could we resist a peace we could take to bed? For centuries, the Iron Throne had no more loyal ally than the princes of Dorne. Since we had never fallen to them, we kept our ancestral title. Perhaps this is what drew Rhaegar Targaryen to us. His royal parents had not produced a sister for him to wed, so he had to look elsewhere for a princess. And there was only one in Westeros, Elia of House Martell, my sister. She was not the most beautiful woman in the world or even in Dorne, but rare for a woman from our land. Her flower came with no thorns. She was kind and clever, with a gentle heart. I loved her. I feared for her. For years I fended off lesser men from her. But when Rhaegar came, even I failed. He was beautiful and the crowned prince of the 7 kingdoms. And our mother had worked so hard to secure the match, how could Elia not accept him? They were wed, and he took her from her home, from those who loved her and would die for her, and locked her in his red keep above his sty of a city surrounded by false friends. She bore him a daughter and a son, though each almost cost her her life. Elia loved Rhaegar. She obeyed him, and he chose to steal away Lyanna Stark, a pale northern girl whose veins ran with ice like all her people. Instead of disciplining his faithless son, King Aerys executed the Starks when they came seeking justice, and ignited a revolt. I know how the Maesters describe the war now, but calling it Robert's Rebellion does not change what it was. The War of the Usurper. Dorne sided with the Crown, for when we swear oaths, we keep them. We needed no threats from King Aerys, though he made them anyway, locking Elia and her children in the Red Keep to ensure our loyalty. Even in his madness, he knew that no true Dornishman would ever take up arms against our beloved princess, and that we would fight to the death for whichever side she was on. At the Trident, Dorne lost 10,000 men and 2 princes, my uncle in the Kingsguard and Elia's gallant husband, Prince Rhaegar, who was too slow or too arrogant for Robert's war hammer. As Robert's army marched on King's Landing, the Mad King sent his own wife and child away, but kept my sister and hers inside. In his madness, Aerys thought that the Dornish had betrayed his son at the Trident, and was only too happy to welcome his one true friend back into his ranks, Tywin Lannister. Lord Tywin's army sacked his friend's city while Lord Tywin's son murdered the king he'd sworn to protect. All this could have been forgiven. War is terrible, and men must become terrible to wage it. But the Lannisters knew that as long as my sister and her children, Prince Rhaegar's heirs, lived, no usurper could safely sit the throne. So Lord Tywin's dog, Sir Gregor Clegane, the Mountain, made Elia watch as he murdered her daughter and dashed her infant son's head against a wall. Then, with her baby's blood still on his hands, he raped my sister and murdered her. When Lord Tywin later presented their bodies to Robert Baratheon wrapped in pretty Lannister cloaks, I have been told the red color graciously hid the blood from men's eyes. The Targaryens talk of fire and blood. In Dorne, our blood is fire. If Robert Baratheon had dared set foot in Dorne during his reign, he would have lost the foot. And it is not even him we blame for Elia. The Lannisters think their gold buys them power. The Lannisters think their mountain buys them strength. But if they want peace, they cannot buy it with mountains of gold or one mountain of steel. They must pay in blood.
Dude, even though I knew this, it's made... Oh, it's finished. It's made the revenge now of Dawn joining Daenerys so much... Like, I don't know, it just puts into a greater context. Like, the passion of their revenge that they want for their sister. Oh, like, I feel it now. Like, even though I knew it before, to some degree I was like, no, why are these Dawn lots like the way they are? Why did she, turn on her brother and do all this shit? But then, like, you know it, but they didn't really do a job of explaining culturally how they will always be loyal to their own, and if something happens to their own, it's within their cultures to always get revenge, to do what is right. They never really painted the Dornish king, the one who was killed, as someone who was breaking that tradition, even though they kind of explained it. Like, they just didn't go far enough to really emphasize how big a deal it was. But this has kind of really focused that. Like, I'm not as mad at that princess for doing what she did now, her and the Sand Snake. I'm not as... Before I was like, I really don't like this woman because she's snake-like. You just can't trust her. But I kind of get it that what she's doing is truly what her people believe, and it is right for their not just their family, but the people as a whole. Like, that's what has to be done, because what was done to them was so bad that, it was disrespectful for the king at the time to do what he did in ignoring it, even though it's the intelligent thing. He wanted peace, so you can't really be mad at him, but at the same time, it just makes everything so much better. Sorry guys. So let me know what you think. What's your theories, right? Comments down below. You like the video, please subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. I am Eddie Reese, and this has been my first take to Game of Thrones Complete Histories and Lore, Season 4, Part 2. I think this is Part 7 overall. Gotta do that first.